Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nuclear, and with me today is the Brian David Marshall. If any of my friends here in chat are fans of Magic the Gathering, you might know who BDM is. He's definitely a big figure there, and we're so happy to work with him. He's brought us really great events like Vintage versus Type 1, and it's an honor to have you here today, Brian. I want to go ahead and let you go ahead and I think I kind of introduced you, but I'll let you go ahead and let everyone know who you are as well.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be part of this organization and the effort to end type 1 diabetes in our lifetimes. It's been a pretty profound disease in my life, and really cool to take a long career in comics and games and find some ways to contribute to this fight. So I've been involved with trading card games for about as long as they've been around. I used to own a game store in New York called Neutral Ground, which was pretty well known. Ran events, have worked for Wizards of the Coast on the in front of the camera for Pro Tours for many years. Was the Pro Tour historian, and currently, and have written comics, done a bunch of other stuff, and currently have a game company called Mothership Games, and we're launching our first game later
Oh
this year.
wow.
So
You excel in so many other areas though. It's really the resume you have of things you've done in the card game space is really phenomenal.
I could have won a few more games.
Done a few things. And as you mentioned here, you also are a fellow type 1 diabetic.
Yep,
Uh, what do you remember what you're like? I think if I remember correctly, you were diagnosed later in life.
I was. So I just celebrated my 32nd wedding anniversary to my wife.
Congratulations.
Really exciting. And it was, I was trying to lose weight for the wedding. And I was like, wow, I'm doing a great job.
Oh
I'm
gosh.
really killing it. Just, really thirsty all the, as people who are familiar with the disease will tell you, I, at some point was lost too much weight, was not feeling well, went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I'm going to do a blood test, but I really don't need to. You're clearly type 1 diabetic. And
Oh wow.
I thought that, my brother was diagnosed when he was 10.
Hmm.
And at the time, what we call type 1 diabetes was called juvenile diabetes,
Yep.
which is not a accurate name, but I didn't know that at the time. And you see why that name change has been so important, because I had just assumed I couldn't have diabetes because I was not juvenile.
Yeah.
I was in my
Yeah.
20s. And and that was the start of my journey, and been dealing with it, and getting better and better tools every year. Have now on a pump and a continuous glucose monitor, and just had the lowest A1C I've had for as long as that information's been
Congrats.
available to me. Really feeling like I got the upper hand on it for the moment.
That's phenomenal to hear. It's really cool to hear. I mean myself included with how life-changing these devices can be for us living with T1D because having so much data at your fingertips all the time. And now I don't know if you are familiar or use looping, but I know people will do looping where their pump kind of interacts with their CGM and almost
I
works like a artificial pancreas in a way. I use that term lightly, but
yeah.
it's so cool how far we've come and what the research with Breakthrough T1D has done for us over the years.
Yeah. I was, I've been doing that. That's a big part of why I've been able to get lower my A1C, which was sort of stubbornly, hanging at one number for a while.
Hmm.
Um, has been the continuous glucose monitor, and the idea that, it's constantly making little micro doses of insulin, constantly making little
Yeah.
adjustments. I've also had way fewer lows,
Yes.
which is great. And it can be one of the really scary sort of immediate dangers of being a diabetic, is that you can have a low blood sugar episode and lose consciousness. So, um, the idea that it kind of goes like, hey, you don't really need a little pop of insulin here. You're doing okay, and we're going to give you an alarm at 3 a.m. to wake you up.
Yeah. As much as I hate those alarms, also it's nice to get not just the alert in general, but I find I don't know what CGM you're on, but I use the Dexcom and getting the alerts as like just like, hey, you're dropping really fast before you even have hit that low blood sugar range
Yeah,
is such a game changer.
yeah. I'm on the Medtronic, and it just the way I have it set up is just based on crossing numbers. So
Hmm.
I have it set to alert me before it's at a number that's particularly low. But if it goes below it, it warns me. Um, and that's been great. I was on some. I don't know. You might have even been on the call where a group of us were talking. Uh, and there was a lot of people in the Breakthrough T1D community, and
Hmm.
I don't know if someone had asked a question or someone had asked about like, what would your life be like without type 1 diabetes? Have thought
Yes.
about your life with type 1 diabetes? And it's so funny, like the tools have gotten really good.
Mm.
And the first thing that sort of occurred to me was the idea of being able to sleep through the night without
Yeah, I
alerts.
remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
And not having things beeping and and oh, your battery's low, oh, this is low. You have some nights where you get like this ziggy of like all the different alerts going off. And so, but I mean, like you said, super grateful for it, and it's been life changing. Like I mean, really given like a quiet reflective moment, I'm like moved to tears by what's available
Yeah.
to combat this. But on a just like I'd like to get 7 uninterrupted hours of sleep level.
Yeah.
Can we hear this
And
already?
having having had T1D now for well, you've had it yourself for 30 plus years, but your brother had it even earlier in your life. So you've probably have
Yeah.
really seen the breadth of
Oh,
what has the changes have been throughout the year from the time that he was diagnosed.
sure. Well, crucially for my brother, he was diagnosed before the and I always forget the name of the study, but it was a landmark study in the late 80s, early 90s that talked about the impact of high blood sugar and complications, and really has driven a lot of the modern efforts to get people's A1Cs lower and to keep your sugar under tight control. And so when he was first diagnosed, they were still relying on urine strips to test blood sugar,
Oh wow.
which is
Yeah.
information that is, uh, I want to say at least an hour out of date, right? Because it's not like getting a blood glucose reading. It's, now traveled through, your body's filters. And so if your sugar was low on a urine stick, that was terrifying, right? Because if your
Yeah.
sugar was 60, that might mean you're about to pass out. And so the way that people were advised from diagnosis then was to keep your sugar a little on the high side, right? It was to keep it a little high because the thing that was so scary, especially if you were not sensitive to your lows, was a low blood sugar reaction and losing consciousness and eventually, the worst case scenario. And so, um, nobody knew. We didn't, people didn't know better. The tools weren't there and it's developed. But when that study happened, and I think the control group that wasn't doing tight blood glucose control might have like even sued because the results were so dramatic. And when I was diagnosed, the doctor's like, look, if you have one low blood sugar a day, that's probably okay, right? Like that's better that it means you're keeping tighter control.
Yeah. Oh.
And so I mean, it's just so wildly different, and it's not like, super far apart, right? It's probably 10 years apart
Yeah. Yeah. The
in terms
difference that is.
of when we were diagnosed, but um, just two different worlds of treatment. And and like the things you learned when you were diagnosed, and the way you form patterns
Yeah.
and you form behaviors. And so, like, he tended to run a little high on his sugar, and had a hard time. He was doing a much better job of it, later in his life, but had a hard time. He really struggled with it. Uh, so
That's so hard to
yeah,
hear. And yeah, that's wild to hear that that was the case back then, because now there's so much data that shows us that high blood sugars long term can really do a lot of damage to our bodies.
right.
And oh, that hurts my heart hearing that it, but I'm also
I think,
glad that now we've come so far from that, and we're to develop better ways to control our blood sugars. We are a lot more knowledgeable at how to handle T1D. But yeah, that's
yeah,
that is
yeah.
wild
It's
to
tough.
think.
My brother's a big source of inspiration for me, in terms of wanting to raise money for this cause, right? And also, when he was someone who always was engaged in helping other people, and so really wanted me to carry that forward. And it's a big inspiration for what drove me to be doing these vintage versus type 1 events.
Yeah,
So
that was something I did want to touch on, because I know that's a really he's been a really big inspiration for you starting Vintage versus Type 1. I mean, obviously you deal with your own T1D, but I know you've always said that your brother is really the reason that you've done this. And I would love to
yeah,
have you talk more
100.
about that, because I know people watching might not know the whole story behind that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my brother, diagnosed at a very young age, s- struggled with that through his teen years. There was not a lot of educational material, or I, and again, maybe we didn't have access to it, whatever, for whatever reason. Um, and he uh, really was, I think, frustrated later in life as he found out, more and more, like, oh, crap, I was definitely not doing the right thing there, and um, and he's someone who was just always very generous with his time, and very, very giving heart. I always remember, years ago we went to a San Diego Comic Con, um, and I mean, this is somewhere in the '80s. So this is before I'm diagnosed. When I was in had a comic book publishing company, and an artist that he didn't even really know, but a friend of ours knew, had fallen and broken his arms. He had fallen from, like, and like braced himself, and so there's an artist, without the ability to use his arms. And so my brother just, like, went around San Diego Comic Con, went up to every single comic book artist there and told that story. Said, like, look, just give me a piece of art. We're gonna auction it off. We're gonna raise money. This guy doesn't have health care. He's an artist. And, like, that was my brother, right? Like, my brother just going up to, like, the biggest names in comics, and just, like, do this because it's the right thing to do. And that's always been sort of the uh, what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about this. Thinking about how he would have what he would have done if I was diabetic, and he wasn't. You know,
Oh,
so
I love that. Oh, truly, truly a wonderful person. That's
yeah,
that is that
he's
is a
really.
great inspiration, someone to look up to in terms of what you're doing now. And I think I'm sure he would be so proud of what you've done. I mean, look at your first year of Vintage versus Type 1 raised $15,000, and now here we are. We just wrapped up. We're wrapping up right now year 2 of Vintage versus Type 1, and has we're I think once everything is totaled up, we should be at like 30,000 raised. So
We're right there. I mean, if someone wants to go
yes.
and make a donation right now on the Tiltify page, you could do that and make sure we get over
Yeah,
30,000.
yes. Would love to see us hit that. We're just shy of 30,000 right now, so doubling that from year 1 would be incredible, and
Yeah,
a great
amazing.
way to
And
honor Ryan's brother. be honest.
Yeah. I gotta say, I gotta take a minute to just like, there were a lot of people who really, so it's funny. We were about to launch this campaign for Breakthrough T1D play for Vintage versus Type 1. And just as I was coming back from MagicCon Atlanta, and I got probably the worst case of flu uh, I've had in a very long time, and was pretty sick, and so wasn't really able to engage with a bunch of people's streams that we had gotten on board with this, and I was really worried about how this was going to go. But it was really bad, and the people who stepped up to stream the Vintage Cube, share the messaging around the campaign, um, elicit matching funds from their places of work, right? Do all of this like really amazing stuff was really special. So Caleb Durward, Reed Duke, um, Ruben Bressler, and Ethan Sachs, who are both also T1D Magic players and fixtures in the Magic community. Rebel Lily and Brian Kowal, who Brian ran CubeCon last weekend in Madison, which was just an absolutely amazing event. And then we also did a sealed league for Vintage versus Type 1 there, which raised some money over the weekend, and did a bar event at the Muskie Lounge where I got to design some cocktails, and we donated the proceeds from those cocktails. So shout out to Sean Farr um, for his help with that event, and for also just like my kind of like personal goal of having some cocktails on a menu at a bar, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I know that's definitely one of your passions is cocktails, and that must have been just really cool getting to do that.
Yeah,
Not only getting to do that, but it benefiting type 1 diabetes research. Like
yeah,
how
yeah. It was fun.
perfectly BDM is that? Like very up your
I,
alley. That was really I was got stoked when I got to hear that that's what you were doing this past
Yeah,
weekend.
the only way it could have been better is if I got to bring some of my own vintage glassware, but I wasn't going to do so. But yeah, it was really kind of amazing, and definitely we talk a lot about raising money and awareness, right?
Mhm.
Is that's kind of the phrase, and it was what was one of the things that was really exciting to me was hearing from people who took more interest in this cause, right? And took more
Yes.
interest in fighting this disease and became aware like, hey, we're actually, like it can feel really like you can feel like Sisyphus, when you're dealing
Mhm.
with fundraising around a disease, right? Like you feel like, oh my God, we're never going to get there. But with type 1 diabetes, I mean, we're really seeing these kind of like believable leaps and bounds and really this is the first time in my life where I feel like there's actually a something on the horizon that where we can
Multiple
we
things. We're
yeah,
we
yeah,
talk all the time how it's not just a cure anymore. It's we're close to finding cures plural and
right, right.
really
And
phenomenal.
even stuff like identifying markers in people who might develop diabetes and then being able to delay its onset in as we get to a place where there's a cure is something that I thought was just remarkable when Josh told me about that.
Yes.
uh, and that that could be such a huge difference, right? To find out you're type 1 diabetic at 8 versus finding out when you're 15 or 16, or finding out when you're in your 20s. That's such a your ability to handle that information, that responsibility, that um the limit, I don't want to say the limitations of it, but like the restrictions of it in terms of you know everything is that's so huge. So
I think
yeah,
even
it was really cool to hear from people who were just like, oh wow, that's amazing. I didn't know, or I have a diabetic person in my life and I want to get involved in this, or I'm diabetic and I also want to get involved in this. And I think we're going to see with our next one even more activity
yes.
around this and even bigger numbers.
I loved and I particularly really loved watching Caleb talk about T1D as someone who he doesn't have it himself. I don't believe I didn't hear him say if he had any connections, but the way he talked about Breakthrough T1D and the research he did to learn about type 1 diabetes before his streams was really great to see how informed he was, and he was, as you said, like advocating and letting his audience know what it
Right.
is we do here and why this is an important cause. And that was really inspiring to see. The Magic community really showed up huge. And despite you being sick during Vintage versus Type 1 this year, I think you should be very proud of, you brought these people together and they
Uh,
really did it big.
I'm so grateful to everyone for participating in this. I saw Caleb this past weekend actually in Madison, and I was like, "Hey, Caleb, we don't see each other that often, and I'd seen each other a lot more in the past when he was a Pro Tour competitor and I was doing Pro Tour coverage." But and we walked up and he was like, he put his hand out, and I was like, I just gave him just this gigantic bear hug because I was so blown away by how much heart he brought to that. So it was really really outstanding.
Really, it really genuinely was. I was so.
I'm worried I'll break Reed's back if I see him.
Yeah, I just a really generous community of people, and it's so interesting to see how much gaming and fundraising kind of go hand in hand. Um, whether it be card games or video games, we've seen such a great, passionate group of people show up and always hit it out of the park.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, it's been remarkable, remarkable to watch and remarkable to meet the team. Uh, Breakthrough so many like just incredibly uh, competent, passionate, dedicated people who have all been affected by this in some way or another, right? That
Yes.
that's one of the things that's always interesting to me. Also, is to see how people get pulled into this cause, right? Like whether it's a parent of a T1D kid or spouse, or have it dealing with it yourself, or it's been really inspiring and really like validating of the choice to work in games,
It
because there's
is.
so many
Yeah.
really cool people in the game space who are, you know, uh, just motivated by a good side quest.
Yeah, I love that. Because it's definitely I myself as someone who is a streamer full time, I don't know if you even get this with your family with what you've done with Magic the Gathering, but they don't fully understand it. And being able to share, like, a big point I always bring is the fundraising efforts and how powerful that is in our community, what we've been able to do with that. And that's always like it kind of legitimizes in a way that like what we're doing is really good work. It's not just playing games.
Yeah, absolutely. My mother was when I got a Blue Heart Award last year for the campaign, which was really special. And it's like, it's up here. You can't, it's off
Yes.
camera slightly, but um, which was just like and you would think I'd won the Oscar from my mom's,
Oh.
you know. And she was watching. My mother has never been on Twitch. It's like, Mom, you could tune into Twitch and watch me, on this talking on this Magic stream or interview. Never. But when the awards were announced and that was coming up, and she watched that. I don't know if she was wearing a gown or not, but she might have been. She might have she might have done a little red carpet outside the house. She was so excited and so moved by the fact that this group of gamers have come together to raise money to um, fight this disease that's affected her life so profoundly in terms of her two sons. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was great.
I love, oh, that's so sweet. I love that your mom was so proud of that and connected there. I do
Yeah.
want to back up a little bit and talk about what is your connection to Breakthrough T1D and how early on did you find JDRF or?
So I found so years ago, um, I started running Magic tournaments. It's been about we're going to be 32 years next year from my first Magic tournament that I ran, or 31 years, and
That's
I
pretty close to the time you were diagnosed then? Yeah.
yeah, very very close, right on the right around the same time, and I was running Magic events, and again, is just trying to figure out different things we could do and different side events that we could run. And there's a number of type 1 diabetic players in the New York community, and it's sort of become aware of them through these. And so we actually started running um, side events at our Magic tournaments. Gray Matter Conventions was the name of the company, and we would run a sealed deck tournament for a box of boosters, and all the proceeds from that event would go to JDRF at the time. And then I mean, I don't know, that business ran from 94 through the mid 2000s, probably up until about 2010, and was running tournaments every month. So there were um regularly donating money to diabetes research at JDRF. But about 2 or 3 years ago, a friend of mine who's in the video game space, who I know through Magic, sent an email to me. He's like, I'm going to connect you to my friend Josh Larson at Breakthrough T1D. And he's like, I feel like you guys are going to just hit it off, and I think that there's a great uh, opportunity for you to do something that I think will be meaningful to you. And he connected me with Josh, and he was right. And we connected, we talked a bunch. I'm on the advisory council for Breakthrough T1D Play, and been really just fortunate to meet a lot of amazing, super smart people who are trying to make the world a better place, and have helped to make these, I mean, really, I mean, just are the driving force behind these vintage versus type 1 events. Like, let's be honest, nothing happens without Emily, right?
Very true. Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, we're honored to have you because we myself and Emily, so this weekend I was at TwitchCon and I went to a learn how to play Magic the Gathering panel because because of all the work we've done with you all, and I'm like, I play card games, not Magic the Gathering. I used to do a lot of Hearthstone, but it's a lot of the lingo is things that I don't know what's going on, and I'm like felt inspired to go and
very
learn kind
lingo
of the
heavy.
basics and get more involved because of the work you've done.
Oh my God, I'm gonna send you a package of cards.
Oh my god. I'm gonna get sucked in.
That's amazing.
I've had friends who are
Yeah.
like, you should go download Arena now and start doing
So
that.
here's the thing: if you're someone who's watching this and you're interested in learning how to play Magic, the worst thing you can do is ask another human being to teach you how to play. It is a daunting game.
It is.
Yeah, I'm sure my friends at Wizards are like, "Oh my God, what is he saying?" But it's a very daunting game, and the experience of someone teaching you to play has two outcomes, right? Either it's kind of condescending and they let you win, or they ruffle stomp you and are like, do better next time, noob. And so it can be really frustrating to learn. With Arena, there's a tutorial mode, and before this, there was Duels of the Planeswalkers, which was an iPad app, and that also was the first time Magic had a tutorial mode, and you can really find this huge growth spike in Magic to this solitaire tutorial mode existing.
Oh.
Um, it's really like a secret chapter in Magic's history that has allowed so many people to find their way into the game over the decades. And yeah, it's amazing because you could just take your time. You can learn how to play. You don't have to feel like if you're blasting through it because it makes total sense to you, that's great. If you're struggling with a concept or don't really like, there's no one to judge that, or no one for you to feel like you need to sort of any of the dynamics that happen when someone's teaching you a game or telling you about their favorite song. They're like, oh, and this is like, this is me here. Like, this is one of the best punk songs ever made. Listen to it. And they're like, okay, yeah, I'm listening to it. Like there's none of that, misalignment that happens between two people trying to convey information. So it's MTG Arena is Magic Arena is the best possible way to learn how to play.
I think even too, it's very intimidating because for years I've had a lot of friends who play Magic, and I've been interested because I know I like those types of games, but it's very daunting, the kind of like the price point, I think, to get into playing it too, where Arena kind of takes that away as well, so that you can
Sure.
see if you
Yeah,
even
yeah, you don't get
enjoy
charged
the
for the
game and
tutorial.
want to invest the money in it or not before you. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's always a game to be found, right? Like, it lines up with your impulse control,
Yeah.
or lack thereof. So you're like, oh, it's 2 in the morning, I can't sleep. Maybe I'll play a game of Magic. Yeah, oh, great, I can play. And there's, but yeah, that's a great on ramp. So if anyone's thinking about doing that, and uh, you'll see some announcements from me over the next few weeks. But a lot of the stuff we're talking about here is stuff that's been really informed some of the game decisions we made around our products that we're going to be launching. So,
All right, I'm sold. I'm gonna get into Arena this week. I think is that's my next gaming adventure, and start. I want, because I
oh, that's
really do
it.
genuinely, when we do vintage versus type one, I want to better understand what's going on as kind of the inspiration, but also just it's a very beloved game for a reason.
I do think it's the best game ever made. Just for a game to have constantly put out product for 33 years now, for people who've been, and to be able to accommodate players who started playing the game last week as much as people who've been playing the game since 1993 is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like seems impossible. Um, with like, so many different game objects and so many different products and so many different IPs in there, and that it all just kind of somehow makes sense and works, is pretty ridiculous. I'm excited. I think it would be really interesting to watch someone streaming, even going through the tutorial and learning, and um, I think that would be a really fun piece of
Yeah.
content to
Yeah,
engage with.
I like that idea. Yeah. And I think that is really true. The like, it has been around for so long and it still is very loved and continues to transform throughout the years. Is that is quite a feat to accomplish in the gaming space. Especially through the 90s and the 2000s, like there's been so many changes, and to still continue to grow with all those changes is, yeah.
Now it's funny, you've been watching people play Vintage Cube,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is basically the most complicated
Uh
possible version of Magic you can encounter, with some of the most powerful cards from across all 30 years thrown into the mix together. So,
okay.
so keep,
Okay.
so keep in mind that when you do play Magic, generally you're going to play with a small subset of cards that have been recently released,
That makes
um,
sense.
are
Yeah.
designed to work together, and have a couple of signposts along the way in terms of what you should, like, oh, look at this 2 color card that does this cool thing. I guess I'll build a deck around that, right? Like, there's there's some pretty straightforward ways that the game explains itself to you as you get started. Vintage Cube, you were actually just sticking your head in the water and looking down at the deep end of the pool and not seeing the bottom.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
if you
You know
if
what?
you go into
That's reassuring hearing you say that because it was like watching Vintage Cube is like, oh my gosh, as someone who's an outsider to this community, just this is a lot going on, a lot of words that I don't know what they're talking about. And I know
yeah,
Black Lotus is a big deal.
yes, yes. Black Lotus is one of so when Magic came out in 1993, there was with the Alpha Edition, which was a small run of the first printing of the game. Um, Black Lotus was eventually realized to be one of the most powerful cards in the game because it violates several of the rules of the game. It basically gives you, I mean, you've played Hearthstone, so
Yep.
you have 1 mana on turn one. Imagine a free card that gave you 3 more mana on that
Oh
turn, or 3 more.
gosh. Okay.
So that's
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which seems, it has that weird thing where it could be like, oh, whatever, it's like, Arrested Development gift, it's just 3 mana. Well, look at that. How bad could that be? Um, but it was really powerful and has become one of the most iconic cards in Magic history. You know, Post Malone bought like a artist proof of an Alpha Edition card
Mm.
for more than $1 million.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that.
Right? People, the card is constantly changing. The highest end cards are changing hands for increasing amounts of money, like this kind of like Honus Wagner baseball card kind of, or Action Comics #1 kind of tier of collectible. Um, and it's really an iconic card, but not a card most people play with or have an opportunity to play with uh, in regular Magic.
Yeah. That's
So
interesting to hear. And I understand, yeah, why I didn't even know what the text on the card was, just that it's powerful. And
yeah,
now that you say that, I'm like, okay, yep, that's pretty broken.
yeah, and it doesn't cost anything to play. It's a zero
Oh,
cast and cost
jeez.
spell,
Yeah.
so it gives
No.
you like there's a whole strategy in the Vintage Cube called Storm. You may have heard people talking about Storm,
Hmm.
which cares about how many spells you play in a turn. So it's a free spell that there's all sorts of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
The next time we talk, you're going to be like schooling me on this. So
Let's say I'm excited to get in and learn now. This is really
I've seen how
between
you
going to the like
keep.
how to play and talking to you now, I'm like, all right, I'm feeling pretty and watching Vintage versus Type 1 because again,
Yeah,
the passion from those players alone. I I want to understand more because I love watching those despite not understanding a lot of I'm excited for next year's Vintage versus Type 1 where I'll be better versed in it. I do want to take that and kind of ask though. I know you've been very involved with Magic the Gathering tournaments and conventions over the years. How do you manage your T1D during those busy, unpredictable days? Because I know as type 1 diabetic myself going to conventions and traveling, it's a lot harder than having my normal routine at home.
Absolutely, right. There's a lot of different factors, right? So it's like the going to a convention can be kind of like a casino, also in the sense that there's no clocks, there's no outside light. You don't
Mhm.
really see time passing the same
Yes.
way. So it's very easy to forget to eat.
Mhm.
Uh, Very easy to just get caught up in things. I have to make sure I have alarms set to just sort of touch base with myself, right? Go, oh,
That's
have
good.
I eaten? Is my sugar okay? Is my, I set an alarm for every 2 hours so that I'm just like being attentive to things. Um, I have to make sure I have candy right with
Yeah.
me in case I go low. I always have to make sure I have all my supplies, batteries, everything I need in case I need to. I've had multiple times early on where like, oh, my reservoir is low. Oh, my reservoir is empty. And my hotel room is, a 25-minute walk through
Oh
the
gosh.
convention center,
Yeah.
I gotta go get it. Um, I mean, the biggest thing is making sure I always have AA batteries for my pump. Because that's the one where you really like, you're like, wait a minute, I need to find a battery right now. I've waited too long.
Yep.
Um, but I remember the first time I qualified to play on the Pro Tour, which was it's just an ongoing professional tournament series that Wizard Drums was really a big part of legitimizing the game and letting people realize that uh, there was this skill element to it. It wasn't just people pushing cardboard around a table. Um, I qualified for the tournament, a tournament in LA in like '96, and I was really nervous, right? I was like, what do I do? Like I hadn't played a lot of competitive Magic. I was generally running events uh, and I remember going up to the head of the guy who's running the tournament, the head judge, who now is like I think the one of the most senior people at Pokemon USA,
Oh wow.
Andrew Finn. Uh, and being like, okay, well, let me ask you a question. I'm a diabetic. Uh, Here are some of the things that can happen with a type 1 diabetic, talking about high blood sugar, low blood sugar. Um, I mean, there really weren't many devices at that time, right? But, might need to test my sugar, how, what do we do if, how do I deal with that stuff? And he's like, well, look, and it was something that really stuck with me, right? Because on one hand, his answer is like, well, kind of tough shit. Pardon my like, but what he really said was, look, your health is more important than a game. We'll
Hmm.
try to accommodate you, right? If you need 2 minutes or whatever to fix something, but if your blood sugar's low and you can't play in the match, that's you deal with that. That's more important
Hmm.
and and unfortunate, right? Like, but um but it was something that I've thought about a lot over the years, kind of like, okay, you're right. This is a game and this is my health. And so uh really trying to make sure I'm always keeping that in mind that I don't want to uh sacrifice that. I remember playing in a Grand Prix, which is a smaller version of a Pro Tour that's not invitation gated, uh, a money a tournament for money. And I was playing and I just felt like, have you ever had that thing where you just feel like super syrupy, like hazy because your blood sugar's
Yes.
high,
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
like sleepy
Yeah.
and like not and I mean really and so but I was playing a game and I could tell that I was playing badly by the way people were looking at me and someone like and someone just kept like making this kind of repetitive play that there's an obvious foil for on my side.
Hmm.
And then eventually he tried it a third time, and then I was like, "Oh, wait a second, do this." And I ended up winning the game, very importantly. But
Very important.
um, but then I tested my
Oh,
sugar. My blood sugar was like 480 or something.
oh my gosh. Yeah,
And
I
I guess maybe I had eaten too much, or maybe I didn't take a shot with a meal,
mhm.
or who knows, right? Like there was I don't remember, but like and then really just spent the rest of the day testing and taking some insulin and trying to get my sugar back under control. This is back when it was still like a pen.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, but so yeah, it can be a pretty profound challenge to deal with. High and low. That's why the pumps are and glucose
Mhm.
monitors are so amazing. That semi-closed loop.
You would,
Uh,
because you would never get to that. You shouldn't get that high of blood sugar with a CGM now because you would
yeah,
be alerted way earlier than 480 that you need to
yeah.
do
Oh God, yeah.
something.
I don't know if I've ever seen a 3 on my pump.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it'll yell at you. It's like, hey, it's been over 200 for a little bit now. What's going on?
yeah.
Um, so
But I so
yeah,
relate to that, like from not competitive card, but like doing other streaming or I have so many memories of like specifically low blood sugars. Because those really put me in a state of I don't really know what's going on. All I know is that I need to eat food. Um,
Yeah,
is the
and it
only
can be
thing
a
in my
little,
brain, and I can't
it can be a little
comprehend
like
anything
being drunk,
else.
right? It feels a little bit like feeling drunk sometimes,
Yes.
or
Yep.
an altered state, right? Like you feel like you can babble a little bit. I mean, really, like on a stream, I've had that happen on the Pro Tour stream even, where my blood sugar is low, and I'm like, wow, I am probably not making any sense here. I
Yep.
need to get off and
Yeah.
eat some Swedish fish.
Absolutely. I've absolutely been in that boat before where I'm like, all right, I'm going to just like eat my snacks and I'll tell people kind of like, oh, sorry, my blood sugar's low right now. Like I'm slurring my words and I'll be okay. I just need to eat some candy.
Yeah,
I
anything that
hear that.
requires like a sustained presence can be challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, it's pretty yeah, pretty wild.
But
Uh,
shout outs to devices though that like
yeah,
have really been a game changer for these types of things because I think it's a lot easier to avoid those types of scenarios now that we have
yeah,
continuous glucose monitors and pumps and
yep,
don't
yep.
find ourselves in that those states of where we're just confused during important moments.
I just learned something about I mean we talked about two different pump systems, and I think it's a third system. I'm not remembering the name of it, but one of the challenges if you're diabetic is you end up you have your pump and it's giving you a little basal dose, every couple minutes, going beep, just dripping a little insulin in and sort of trying to replicate like the normal function of your pancreas. But when you eat something, you need to take a bolus, which
Mhm.
is a larger shot, um, to compensate for how that food is going to break down into sugar in your blood, right? And keep it from and have the insulin, converted into the fuel you need to, do your thing. And so one of the real challenges, especially when you're first diagnosed as a diabetic, is getting that bolus
Mhm.
right? And understanding what it is. And I was talking to friend's wife who's a nurse practitioner specializing in endocrinology this weekend, and she was telling me about a new brand of pumps she likes, and the way their bolus works is less than usual, the usual more than usual, kind of like, I mean, and it may be a little more granular than that, but you're for people who are struggling cognitively with how many carbs am I taking, or how much, that you're just kind of like, because the adjustments from the glucose monitor to the pump are so good that you can sort of be a little more broad in your description, and you don't have to like get stressed and anxious about getting this exact carb count down,
Ah,
right? And
yeah.
so um, I was really curious about that. I was wondering, I'm honestly, I was just like, have you seen anything like that, or heard anything about it? Because I thought it was, I mean, when I was first diagnosed, or when my brother was a kid, and something like that would have been amazing, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh,
I've not heard about that, but now I need to look into that because it. I'm telling you, the technology is just coming out so fast. There's so much new things, and
right.
it's
And
yeah,
the user and the UX and the UI of it is improving, right?
yes,
Which is a big piece of it, because
mm.
yeah, if you're a gamer, you're gonna figure this out, and you're gonna min max it, and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. Right, I get
Yeah,
it. Like I've played
min
role playing
maxing
games. I know
bullshit.
what I need to do with my insulin. But for people who aren't, if the more tools you can give them to just kind of get it mostly right, even is fantastic.
Yeah, it truly is.
I pointed out that Emily and Josh are amazing, but I really want to point out how amazing you are, and how instrumental you've been in both of these campaigns,
Thank you.
um, both in supporting them leading up to it, throughout it, and after it. And so really super thankful to have met you and to have worked with you on these. You're amazing.
I appreciate
And
that. Thank you. You've been an honor to work with too. I'm really glad that I've gotten to meet you through these events.
And I just want to say the Magic Online Daybreaks Games crew
Yes.
um, have been just above and beyond generous. They donate so many free vintage cube drafts to this effort. You'll see a lot of things where people are like, oh, we're doing a charity thing, and we'll donate above cost. No, they're not doing cost. They're not taking. They're like here, right? Like they are so generous and so gracious and so supportive. They're creating custom avatars for these
Mm-hmm.
fundraisers. They are posting articles. They gave us custom space in their carousel. They posted leaderboards. um, Everybody there, just a phenomenal team and a phenomenal product. We talked about Magic Arena, but um, if you're an old head Magic player looking to play with some of the older cards, Magic Online is unbelievable still, and a great tool. And if you want to crack a Black Lotus, play with Mox's dual lands, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with a vintage format there. Just big uh big round of applause for everybody at Daybreak Games. I love them. So
Yeah, I truly, again, like I think the Magic community is so inspiring. I've loved working with not only you but everyone there because the passion there is fantastic, and I really do think, Brian, that it goes to show just your character and how much these people want to show up and fundraise
yeah, thank
for your cause. So I definitely take credit where credit is due there too.
you. Okay, thank you.
um and the
But
question
you
that
said you had a couple questions.
yes, I this one is my particular favorite that we ask everyone on T1D Tuesday, and it's, if there was one thing that you could say to your younger self just having been diagnosed with T1D, what would you say?
It's great. It's a tough one, really, because I would definitely say find out more information, like constantly.
Yes.
Uh, I kind of had this experience of going to the endocrinologist, and he's like, okay, here's some insulin, here's some syringes, here's a prescription to bring to your pharmacy, and then kind of like a kick out the door. And really did not get, because I was in my 20s.
Um,
I mean, when a kid gets diagnosed, sometimes they'll be admitted to the hospital,
yeah.
or have a lot more intense training around stuff. And so I would have told myself to find out more. I would have said make an appointment with a nurse practitioner immediately, um, and to uh, really rely on my treat it the same way I treat a game, right? Like that there's information and there are rules and there are best practices, and watch some videos, and do all of that, and just have the most information possible, because I really felt like I was in the dark for that first year, and every sort of high and low, and don't have somehow got caught away from my house without my insulin, or how do I get a refill, like all of that stuff. I was just doing that on the fly, and panicking a lot of the time.
Yeah. That's
So I would say just like think about all those scenarios, role play them out, and then find out that information that you need to know so you can be better armed for those moments.
that, you're not, I've come to learn, so, I've only experienced being diagnosed as a child, but the more I've done these and the more folk that I've talked to have late onset adult diagnosis, I've been hearing the same story over and over
Oh, wow.
again, that you get diagnosed at the doctor, all right, goodbye. And where I went to the hospital and had like a
Right,
week of training with my
right.
parents on how to manage this. And it really is a condition that you need some intense training on how to manage, or I could not imagine trying to just freeball it without any, not like getting a crash course on it. It's
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, I would just have made sure I did a better job of, learning that on my own, or asking for more from my medical professionals, because I did,
yeah.
maybe that's what they're waiting for, right? Like they're waiting for you to ask the right. I don't know, but yeah, I felt like in the dark. That's
I
interesting. I feel a little better about it now. I
yeah.
mean, just knowing that's not uncommon.
But that's yeah, that's not it's not good though that that's the common. Like that's
No,
got me kind of feeling like we need to be fighting more for people like yourself who are diagnosed in their adulthood and
right,
help them get better resources because that's not right. That's not okay that that's what you had to go through or what anyone had to go
right.
there. Um you
Here's a
could, and I
pamphlet.
think, you're saying here, like, oh, tell myself to look up more information, but you shouldn't even have to tell yourself that. That should have been
Right,
given to you.
right.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
um, the other thing I want to ask is, in your opinion, how's the best way that people can help and support those who are in the team?
Oh, I mean, that's great. I would say just pay attention. Like if you're with someone who's type 1 diabetic, pay attention to them. Like I don't mean like flatter them. I just mean like just stay somewhat attuned to them, because sometimes when someone's having a low blood sugar or acting weird, or like we talked about with lows, or sometimes acting really like kind of angry, and both highs and lows can have pretty profound effects on people. And sort of being aware of that, and sort of being able to say like, hey, do you need to test your blood sugar?
Yes.
Do you need to get a snack? Do you need to stop and take some insulin? Just being like, um present and aware. And honestly, if there's someone in your life who is a type 1 diabetic who you're going to be spending a lot of time with, I would say learn how to deal with a hypoglycemic reaction. Like learn how to deal with a low blood sugar. Um, maybe watch a video about, I always have like a glucagon pen with me or something, right? Like, but not it might not be something I can give myself, right? My wife knows how to give it to me, but like if there's someone that is a really close friend of yours who's type 1 diabetic, I would say look at, some of the just do a little research into some of the emergency protocols around a diabetic's low or high blood sugars.
It goes back to the education. It's so
Yeah,
important. Um, I love my friends who will be like, "Hey, do you need like a juice box right now? You're kind of being." I've
yeah,
told my friends, I'm like, "Please, like, I will never be offended by you asking that. It was it's a good reminder for me to look at what my number is right now if you think I'm being weird, and I will never fault you for that because it could save my life. And that just
right.
shows me that you care."
And it's weird sometimes, like when you're doing really well with your blood sugars, you you can be a little you're getting fewer alerts. You know, you it's easy to sometimes not look at it, you know,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I think that's a great yeah, that's those are good people. You should keep those
Yes.
people close.
Yes, yes, definitely. 100%. Those are your real friends. Those are your real people there at the end of the day. Well, Brian, thank you so not only just for spending your time with me this afternoon, but also just again everything you've done for our community, all the heart and passion that you put in. I really do look at you as an inspiration in what you do, and
Oh, thank
I it's the work you've done for us here at Breakthrough is phenomenal. So much.
thank you. Like I said, I'm so impressed by everyone on the team and all the hard work people are doing, and um, this amazing collection of people that have been, marshaled to this cause, and just get stuff done in this like pretty steady, consistent, competent. Like competent, by the way, is just like the highest praise. I know it sounds like a middling. No, we need more competency in this world.
Yes.
Uh, um, and so yeah, it's been really great to get to know you, and I'm always happy to come on, talk about magic, talk about diabetes, talk about cocktails,
Yes.
whatever. I'm into it. So
Love
thank you.
that.